I heard the metal scrape sharp, deliberate, right outside my garage, and my stomach dropped before my brain even caught up. Then I saw her shadow slide across the frosted window. And the president of our homeowners association was actually trying to get inside my property like she owned it. 10 minutes later, the whole neighborhood was flashing red and blue because she'd faked a 911 emergency to force her way in, and she had no idea who I really was. My name's Daniel Brooks. On paper, I'm just another homeowner in Willow Crest trim lawns, matching mailboxes, and people who smile like they're being graded. I moved here for quiet, the kind you can't buy in the city. What I didn't move here for was a neighborhood government that thought it could rewrite reality whenever it felt concerned. Her name was Brenda Caldwell, and you could spot her from a block away, clipboard, tight ponytail sunglasses, even when it was cloudy. The first time she spoke to me, she didn't say hello. She just pointed at my garage like it offended her personally. "Mr. Brooks," she said, loud enough for 2 gardeners and a jogger to hear, "there have been reports." I blinked. Reports of what? She tapped her pen against her clipboard like she was about to sentence me. Unusual activity. Vehicles at odd hours. Equipment being moved. Curtains. Blocking visibility. I let out a short laugh because what else do you do when someone's basically mad at curtains? "You mean my privacy?" Brenda's smile didn't reach her eyes. Homeowners Association rules require transparency when safety is involved. That sentence should have been my warning sign right there, because people like Brenda don't actually mean safety. They mean control. They mean I get to look inside your life whenever my imagination needs entertainment. Over the next week, she turned my house into her personal project. I caught her standing across the street, phone held up, snapping pictures like paparazzi. I saw her in her SUV creeping past my driveway, slow, so slow it was almost funny. Until it wasn't. And then the letters started. Notice of violation, notice of noncompliance, final warning before fines. Every one of them was written like I'd committed some kind of moral crime. One was about excessive light emission because I turned my garage light on before sunrise. Another accused me of commercial operations because a delivery van stopped by one time. My favorite was the one that said I was creating a nuisance by obscuring windows. Obscuring windows. I read it twice just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. So I walked over to the clubhouse where the HOA board held their little meetings. It smelled like lemon cleaner and power trips. Brenda was there, of course, sitting at the head of the table like she'd been elected by God himself. "Brenda," I said, calm, "what exactly do you want?" She didn't look up right away. She wanted me to feel like I was interrupting a queen. "Compliance," she finally said. "We need access to verify your garage isn't being used illegally." I leaned forward. "Access? As in you think you can come onto my property and search it?" Her eyes flicked up cold and pleased. "Under Section 6.3, the Homeowners Association may conduct an inspection when there's reasonable suspicion." I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just asked reasonable suspicion based on what? She started listing things like she was reading from a script she'd been rehearsing all week. Late-night arrivals, covered windows, equipment noise, neighbors feeling unsafe. I looked around the room. 2 board members wouldn't meet my eyes. One looked like he'd rather be anywhere else on earth. I said so. "Basically, you don't like that I don't let you see inside my garage." Brenda's smile tightened. "If you have nothing to hide, Daniel." "Oh, here we go," I muttered almost to myself. She ignored that. "Then you won't mind cooperating." I walked out before I said something that would get me featured in her next dramatic email blast. And that's when things started shifting from annoying to threatening. Because Brenda didn't just want compliance, she wanted leverage. The next morning she was waiting at the end of my driveway like a checkpoint. "You have 48 hours to schedule the inspection," she said, holding a folder in front of her chest like a badge. I didn't even stop walking. "No." Her voice sharpened. "Daniel." I turned my head just enough to let her know I'd heard her. "You can't inspect my garage because you're curious. That's not safety. That's you playing detective." Brenda stepped closer, lowering her voice like she was doing me a favor. "You can make this easy, or you can make it difficult." I stopped. That line, that exact line, isn't something normal people say unless they've already decided how far they're willing to go. I looked her dead in the face. "Are you threatening me?" She didn't blink. "I'm telling you what happens when residents don't comply." Then she did something that made my skin crawl. She glanced at my garage door like she was measuring it. "Whether you agree or not," she said almost casually, "we'll get in." For a second, the whole street felt too quiet. No birds, no wind, just that sentence hanging there heavy. I went back inside, shut the door, and stood in my kitchen staring at my coffee like it had answers. And I'll be honest, this was the moment I felt the fatigue hit me. Not fear, not guilt, fatigue. Because it's exhausting living under someone else's obsession. It's exhausting knowing your neighbors are getting her emails with subject lines like "Safety Alert" and "Urgent Community Warning," and you're the unnamed villain in every one. It's exhausting watching blinds twitch when you step outside, not because you did anything wrong, but because someone decided you should look guilty. And for the first time since I moved in, I thought maybe I should just sell. Maybe it isn't worth fighting a person who has nothing better to do than manufacture drama. Then my phone buzzed. It was Megan Price, the neighbor 2 houses down. She wasn't the gossip type. She was the kind of woman who kept her head down and her kids on schedule. "Daniel," she said, voice low, "I don't want to get involved." But I heard her. "Heard who?" I asked. "Brenda," Megan said. "Yesterday. She was talking to someone by the mailboxes. She said she's going to catch you and that she already knows how." My jaw tightened. Did she say what she meant? Megan hesitated. She said, "She can make it an emergency. That way no one can stop her." I felt a chill spread through my chest, slow and controlled. After I hung up, I made another call, quiet, professional. Then another, and I started doing what I should have done the moment Brenda decided she could get in. I documented everything, every letter, every email, every time her SUV crawled past my house, every time she stood near my driveway pretending she was just walking. I pulled camera footage. I backed it up. I made sure the angles were clean, timestamps, visible, audio clear. And I set up a few extra cameras she wouldn't notice unless she already knew where to look. Because if Brenda wanted to play games, fine. But I wasn't going to play them blind. 2 mornings later, just after sunrise, I was standing in my hallway when the first siren hit. Not close at first, distant, then louder, then a second one joined. My phone rang again, unknown number. 911 dispatch, the voice said. "We received a report of a possible explosion or chemical odor at your address. Are you safe?" I didn't answer the question the way they expected. I said yes. "And I believe the caller is making a false report." There was a pause. "Sir, can you clarify?" I walked toward my garage door, watching my phone's live camera feed. On the screen, Brenda Caldwell was standing at the edge of my driveway, one hand on her phone, the other pressed dramatically to her chest like she was auditioning for a daytime soap. She kept looking at my garage, then down the street, then back at the garage. I said, "Steady, I have live video. The person reporting is outside my home right now. She's the president of our homeowners association. Her name is Brenda Caldwell." Another pause, this one sharper. "Do you see any actual smoke or hazard?" "No," I said. "I see a woman staging an emergency." And then Brenda did exactly what Megan warned me she would do. She ended the call, glanced around like she was checking for witnesses, and pulled something from her bag. A slim metal tool. My breath didn't catch because I'd already accepted that she was this kind of person. But watching it happen in real time still made my hands go cold. On my screen, she moved to the side window of my garage out of direct view from the street and started working the frame. She wasn't clumsy, she wasn't guessing, she looked practiced, like she'd done this before. Metal scraped, the window shifted, and then she slid it up just enough to squeeze through. I didn't rush outside. I didn't scream. I didn't try to catch her myself. I waited, because timing matters. And because the moment she crossed that threshold, she stopped being an annoying HOA president and became an intruder. Inside my garage, the camera angle caught her landing awkwardly, brushing dust off her knees like she was offended by gravity. Then she lifted her phone and started recording, panning around like she'd just discovered a crime scene. "Got it," she whispered to herself. I knew it. I watched her move closer to a storage cabinet, reaching for the handle. And that's when I opened the interior door. The sound wasn't dramatic, just a simple click, a hinge, a step. Brenda froze. She turned slowly, eyes widening as she realized she wasn't alone. I let the silence stretch for half a second, just enough. Then I said, calm as glass, "Looking for something, Brenda." Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. Her eyes flicked past me like she expected backup, like she expected the neighborhood to be watching, ready to clap. But it was just me, and the cameras, And the sirens getting closer. Daniel, she finally sputtered, forcing her voice into that fake authority tone. There was an emergency report. I had to ensure. I stepped aside just enough so she could see the camera mounted high in the corner, its tiny red light blinking. Then I pointed down toward the second camera, lower aimed right at the window she'd crawled through. And I said, "You didn't insure anything. You broke into my garage after making a false 911 call." Her face drained. "That's not." "It's recorded," I said. "All of it." She took a step back, and for the first time since I'd met her, she looked small. Not because I was towering over her, but because the fantasy she lived in, where she was judge and jury, was collapsing in real time. "You can't do this to me," she hissed, voice shaking now. "I'm the president of the Homeowners Association." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to, I said. "And I'm the police chief." The words didn't land like a movie line. They landed like a fact. Brenda blinked hard. "No, you're not." I pulled my badge from my belt, something I hadn't worn openly in this neighborhood for a reason, and held it up long enough for her to see the seal, the name, the number. Her lips parted again. Still no words. Outside, tires rolled up fast, doors slammed, radios crackled. Within seconds, uniformed officers were stepping into my driveway, eyes scanning posture tight, because dispatch told them possible chemical incident. I walked out of the garage with Brenda behind me, stiff as a statue, and said to my sergeant, "There's no hazard." The emergency call was false. Then I nodded toward Brenda. "She's the caller, and she entered my property without permission." Brenda's head snapped toward me. "Daniel, wait." My sergeant looked at her, then at me, then at the open garage window. He didn't smile. He didn't ask for a story. He just said, "Ma'am, turn around." Brenda's voice cracked. "This is a misunderstanding." My sergeant repeated firmer, "Turn around." And when the cuffs clicked around her wrists, the neighborhood went quiet in the most satisfying way, like everyone suddenly remembered that rules don't belong to the loudest person with a clipboard. Brenda's eyes darted around, searching for sympathy, searching for a camera that wasn't mine, searching for someone to save her from the consequences she'd been trying to manufacture for me. But there was nothing, just her own choices. Finally catching up. They guided her to the cruiser, and as the door shut, Brenda looked straight at me through the glass. Hatred, disbelief, panic, all tangled together. I didn't wave, I didn't smirk. I just closed my garage door slow and steady and watched her disappear down the street. Some people don't learn limits until the law draws them for you.